People's Radio United.
There is this guy that they bring in, and his name is Bill Lewinsky.
Oh, yes.
And Michelle, I know you can tell us a lot about Bill Lewinsky, the man, but I'm going to just briefly explain what Force Science Institute is. Force Science, and then you can probably fill in even more details of this. But the Cliff's Notes is Force Science Institute was started by Bill Lewinsky, and it's supposed to be the study of force science, if you will, or the use of force, the science behind the use of force. And if this was a legitimate scientist or a legitimate researcher doing this, it would be one thing. But Bill Lewinsky, he got his PhD from a very questionable institution that has been under investigation. And so there's that. And then there's the fact that his research is obviously biased. He comes from a law enforcement background, and basically the best way to describe force science's function is it's less about research and it's more about cops can shoot first and he will answer questions later. You know, he comes in and basically says there's a good reason every time a cop shoots somebody. And, you know, he's received as a legitimate expert, which I don't believe for a second he is, by judges. And this guy and his Force Science Institute definitely needs to be unpacked. So, Michelle, why don't you give us the details on this character?
Well, one of the things I want to mention is his institute is right here in Minnesota in Mankato. And so I have a special interest in keeping an eye on this character. He promotes a lot of phony theories and things. Lewinsky has a PhD, but it's in police psychology. Yet he testifies almost constantly on matters of physics, and he is deeply underqualified. He has no qualifications whatsoever to testify on the science of physiology or physics and the human body or anything like that. He has no qualifications whatsoever, and yet because he talks really pretty and all this stuff, he keeps being an expert. The one lucky thing is that a lot of lawyers that specialize in police brutality lawsuits know about this guy, and they have challenged his expertise in many instances, and he's been found to not be an appropriate expert many times. In fact, in Canada, he's actually been barred from ever presenting expert testimony anywhere in Canada. And that's a very good thing. Yeah, he's been barred from Canada. Not physically. Right. I mean, if you go on vacation there, he can do it, but he can't testify in a case because he's found he starts with the end and figures out how to manipulate things to get back to, justifying that end. So things like he came up with ideas like if a bullet hits a person, sometimes people are saying, how can you shoot the guy in the back, right? And we've got, many cases where a person's running away from the police, they shoot him in the back, there's an entrance wound in the front, an exit wound in the back, and he actually testified in multiple police cases that when the shot entered from the front and hit the bone, it spun the person around to the back, and then subsequent shots shot the guy in the back. I mean, this is like crazy talk. It's nonsensical. Now that there's more videos, you can't get away with as much of this crap. But this guy's whole goal in life is to clear cops from having any responsibility for anything they do. And the other thing that he does, and he makes a lot of money doing it, besides being an expert witness, what people really call a professional expert witness, and just standing up for these brutal cops. The other thing he does is he does a lot of the training, and the training is basically his whole goal, as he calls it, is building shooters. Basically, it's us versus them, and you shoot first or you're going to go home in a body bag and blah, blah, blah. He does a lot of that kind of cops as warriors type of training, which has now been shown to make cops do a lot of the kinds of things that happen, like the police officer shooting the officer, Geronimo Yanez, just panicking and shooting Philando Castile for no reason whatsoever. This is like his case is the first and only case in Minnesota where a police officer has ever been prosecuted for killing someone. And even at that, they aren't prosecuting him with murder or anything like that. All the charges are assault charges. So, that kind of stuff. So basically, he's used to justify the unjustifiable. And the guy's, to me, he's got a PhD in psychology, but he does all this stuff with like neuroscience that he is grossly underqualified for, with physics, and that kind of stuff, which he's grossly underqualified for. That's why Canada said you can't testify here anymore. You're just not freaking qualified. If you want to tell me what that cop's thinking about, or what you think he's thinking about, or what he told you he's thinking about, that's a conversation. Otherwise, shut up.
Right.
What you said is right about false science. I call them institute. I call them false science institute or farce science institute. Either one. Because he promotes phony science that has no basis. Oh, a couple other things. He writes a lot of journal articles, but they're in like these real arcane journals that are not peer reviewed. And when he has tried to get his articles peer reviewed, they've been rejected because, again, his so-called science cannot be replicated. And the only valid science there is science that you can replicate. If you do something and if you get the same result over and over again, no matter how many times you do it, that's good science. And if nobody else can replicate your results, that's bad science. And so people have, like the scientific community's really come out against him because he's overreaching and because his stuff can't be validated.